Greetings, Guardians, my name is Byf here. I didn't expect to be covering this topic again today. We haven't had a reason to chat about the Battle of the Twilight Gap and the epic beef between Lord Shaxx and Lord Saladin for a while, but it's had a development recently that makes for good reading and sort of puts a 9-year storyline to rest. So today, we're going to recount the tale of this epic beef and talk about how it's changed. So, where does all of this begin? Well, it starts with the Battle of the Twilight Gap. I've talked a bunch about this battle, and the best review of what happened is over on the Templin Institute channel. I did a collaborative video with them over there. Go ahead and check them out generally too, they do good stuff, and it's all great lore content. The short version is that an army of 3 massive fallen houses, representing millions of fallen, was descending on the city walls, and the tipping point ultimately came to the Twilight Gap installation. At this weapons installation on the edge of the city perimeter, it was starting to become very clear that the last city was at risk of falling altogether. The latest fallen push was devastating and risked overwhelming the defenders. Lord Saladin, who was in command of the last city's defense, believed that there was no hope, and ordered all city forces within the area to fall back to the Ridgeback district. But there was a single fire team that stepped up on that day and became legends as a result. The story is told thanks to the lore tab from the mountaintop. Take a listen. Fire team leaders, do not advance on the wall. Fall back to the Ridgeback district. Shaxx freezes with a Vandal's windpipe in his fist. He waits for Saladin to justify the strategy. I repeat, all teams, rally at the Ridgeback district. Do not advance. The city is lost. Shaxx drops the Vandal, then empties the rest of his clip into a captain. He and his fire team are running on fumes. The dead, fallen, and Guardian alike litter the Twilight Gap. Shaxx, do you copy? He risks a look over his shoulder at their home, the place they call the last safe city. Not burning. Not yet. Gritting his teeth, he reloads. Shaxx, your orders are to retreat. He sees a gap in the onslaught of invaders and gestures to the others. Nkeshi, take Abdi and Truce. Lui Feng, with me. Bray, cover us. This battlefield is not your stage, Shaxx. This is not about glory. His fire team doesn't hesitate. Shaxx, for the final time, fall back. As the 6 of them crest the wall, Shaxx cuts the feed. This was the moment upon which the fate of the whole city, the whole system, potentially the whole universe, turned. Without Shaxx's defiance here, the last city would have fallen. If the Guardians were not there to defeat the Heart of the Black Garden, Atheon, Crota, Oryx, Gaul, Eramis, Savathun, and the many other challengers in the system, then we might already be doomed. But in this single moment of defiant purpose, Lord Shaxx and his fire team of 5 other Guardians held the line, and bought enough time for reinforcements to arrive. Without their determination and resolve, the other forces would not have had time to mount a counteroffensive. The fallen armies would never have been repelled. All that being said, the fallout from this battle was brutal on a personal level for Shaxx and Saladin. Shaxx knew that his actions gave them all time to save the city, but Saladin believed that the actions of the warlord were made partly as a pursuit of glory, rather than a desperate act of potential sacrifice for the home that he loved. He had disobeyed direct orders from his superior, and to Saladin, this was a strike against his reputation. For the longest time, neither Shaxx nor Saladin would speak of the moment or to each other. There were many instances where people would try to bring them back to the table, but their old rivalry would always reignite. It's worth remembering that it's been a long time since the Battle of the Twilight Gap. The exact amount of time isn't known, but given that this occurred in the City Age, it's potentially been hundreds of years since this event occurred. Now, after all these years have passed, something is about to change. The last decade in Sol has seen more dramatic shifts than in the last 100 years combined. With the Witness being on the cusp of victory, there is little time left. People have changed. People have grown. Not least amongst them is Lord Saladin. The old wolf is finally ready to admit something to the Warlord. This moment, this particular lore entry, is going to change what has taken over a decade of time in the real world to establish. It can be found in the Crowning Duologue. It reads as follows. It took a full 7 minutes before Lord Shaxx stopped pretending that the screen in front of him was transmitting a live Crucible match and not a looped recording. He finally let out an aggrieved sigh and folded his arms across his chest. Forge? If you can spare a few moments, Lord Saladin said, with grim humor. I wanted to talk. Shaxx leveled his helmet in Saladin's direction. Saladin returned his stare. Fine, it isn't a matter of wanting. We need to talk. Saladin braced himself. About Twilight Gap. Shaxx turned to face Saladin, arms sliding down to his sides. His chest expanded as he filled the great bellows of his lungs. You made the right call, Saladin said, quickly. There was a muffled, choked sound from beneath Shaxx's helmet. We've always known that much. Saladin's mouth twisted unhappily. He turned his gaze to the city's horizon, feigning interest in a flooded crater near the outskirts. Even if I refused to admit it. You saw hope where I couldn't. I told myself your defiance was grandstanding. Saladin laughed ruefully. I'd given up. But you and your fire team bought us time. Enough time for all of us to change. Shaxx stood unmoving. They both waited in the protracted silence. At last, Saladin sighed. After all these years, after everything, I trust your judgment. I just wanted you to know that. Shaxx's helmet shifted, just slightly. Before the end? Before whatever comes next. Shaxx nodded slowly. You know, I had a host of incredibly scathing comments prepared for this moment. Saladin smiled. I bet you did. So there it is. Saladin did probably the hardest thing for any stubborn Titan commander to do. He admitted that he was wrong. We don't know what the future holds, but what is clear is that if these two were going to appear side by side in more future operations, this was the reason why that is all possible. In spite of all his glory, his victories, his pride and his responsibilities, Saladin took a moment, parked his own emotions on the situation, and admitted his fault. That takes a lot for someone that might have been developing for hundreds of years, and a grudge that has been equally as long. I guess the real lesson here, for us, is to remember to be more like Saladin in this moment. If you're controlling something, sometimes you get the calls wrong. When you do, if someone comes in and saves your bacon, be ready to admit your imperfection, and to be willing to admit it too. After all, Saladin may be an immortal godslayer, but so is Shaxx, and one thing that binds them both together, and the rest of us for that matter, is this. We're all human. Imperfection is a part of who we are. That's all from me for now though. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like, and of course, remember that you can leave your thoughts down below in the comments section. Also, if you want more Destiny lore content, go ahead and hit subscribe, and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership as always is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Rhodacia Arastra. I'll see you, Starside.